I'm going to go over how to protect yourself as a couple from vendors who have no business being in the wedding business. And if you're a vendor, you'll want to listen up to know how to be a vendor that couples want. Hey everybody, welcome to Grow My Officiant Business. My name's Chad Muncie, and this is a really cool episode because I'm going to address couples directly. And if you're a couple listening to this, I'm going to tell you how to protect yourself from bad wedding vendors that just should not be doing anything in the wedding business. Unfortunately, nowadays, a wedding vendor can be anybody. Anybody can call themselves a wedding officiant. Anybody can call themselves a wedding photographer, a videographer. They can put up a website really quickly. It's really easy to put yourself out there. That can be a good thing if you're a vendor or if you're a business owner, but it can be a really bad thing if you're a customer, a client, or in this case, a wedding couple. So, how do we protect ourselves from this? Well, first, I want to show you some examples, and I hate to do this, but I kind of don't. I want to show you some examples of the reasons you should protect yourself. Let's look at some clips from some crazy wedding vendors.
Now making their grand appearance, Danielle and Bill, the new Mr. and Mrs. All right, they have chosen a special song that my husband and I are going to sing for their bridal dance. After we've done the first verse, we're going to ask the bridal party to join them on the dance floor when we start the second verse. I don't know if we left them. Technical difficulties, hold on. Danielle, I apologize. We had the words to these songs and we were ready to do it for you. Can't find them, so we're just going to play the actual CD, okay? Danielle, we found them. Can we start it over again? Keep dancing. They got covered up by the tablecloth.
Boy, oh boy.
Signify to all your marriages to one another. Let us pray. Okay. Hope you don't want to lose your rings. On the wrong page. Together because you have pledged your love and affection. Because you have pledged your love and affection. Oh my, just one moment please. I think I jumped the gun here. Well, that's the first. Just one moment please. These rings you exchange signify to all your marriages to one another, and let us pray. Oh
Oh my God.
Maybe you just hold it for me for a moment, will you?
No problem, buddy. I got you.
Oh, can't believe they've done this. Everything was in order. It was, believe me.
Okay, so I'm not trying to scare you. I'm really not. But this should scare you enough to take the onboarding process, to take the process seriously of looking for a wedding vendor and shopping for a wedding vendor. Take it really seriously, and I'm going to teach you some things in this video that you can use to your advantage to protect yourself in some of these cases. So I've made a list. I'm going to look over here just to talk to you for a second. I made a list of some examples of what wedding vendors do that are bad, that have no business in the wedding business. Showing up late to the wedding. You know, this is crazy because a lot of brides say, well, my wedding, sometimes I can't even be on time. But when you are a couple, you expect all of your vendors to be on time, be early, and to know what they're going to do. Sometimes they don't show up to the wedding at all. I've heard horror stories. Performing poorly or having poor results, especially with photographers, videographers. They get your photos, they get your videos, and then you never hear from them again, or it's months and months later. They have no contract, all kinds of bad things. Not having enough experience, not having the right equipment to do the task. Somebody calling themselves a videographer and coming out with some old DSLR camera and they have no idea how to use it, and then they shoot your wedding and it's shaky and it just doesn't look good. Poor communication is a really big one, especially with you, the couple. Poor or constant mixed reviews. So you look at the reviews and one's good, and the next three are bad, then there's a good one, then there's a bunch of bad ones, and you have no idea what to do. Another example is poorly designed contracts or deposits of more than 50%. When you're planning your wedding, you've already got this big budget. You've got a big layout of all of the things, all of the vendors, and how much they're going to cost. A vendor should not be asking for more than 50% upfront before they've done anything. Now, it's perfectly fair for them to ask for 50% or less for a retainer because it is their time. You're booking their time. But when they say, I want 75% or I want it all up front, no way. Big red flag goes up. Do not go with that wedding vendor. Now, how do you protect yourself? You, the couple, are in charge of the entire thing. If you get a wedding planner and they get upset when you try to give them suggestions or when you try to take charge a little bit because you are in charge of the entire thing. And I'm not saying being bossy, but when you make suggestions and say, "Hey, I would like this," and they get upset or frustrated, big red flag. The question you're asking yourself right now, and I'm asking in my head, like if I was watching this, is how do I see these red flags? How do I know when I've got a bad wedding vendor? How do I prevent getting to the point where I see these red flags? And this is a tougher thing to do, but it is possible. So let's look at a few items, a few things that you should be on the lookout for and you should notice in the very first place. First, you should look at their business and their onboarding process. You should look at how organized they are running their business as far as when you want to quote, when you want to fill out a form so that you can get more information, when you want to get um, more information about exactly what they can do for you, their packages, when you're requesting that information, how organized and how easy is it to get that information? Do you have to go to a website, which is very normal, and then search for it and go crazy trying to find a price? That's not normal. So there's two things right there. Do they have a website? Is it clean? Is it organized enough for you to find a price or for you to easily get a quote by filling out a simple form? Do they ask for an insane amount of information? That's a red flag. So look at how organized they are with the onboarding process, with the quoting process, and with their own business. Look at their website. How organized are they? If you have any doubts when you go to their website, do not go with that vendor. Keep in mind, they are going to be less professional with you than they are with their own money and the way they make money. So if they're not super professional with their website, that organization, they're not going to be very professional when it comes to you. How professional is their content? How professional are the reviews and are the pictures, the photos of their past weddings? You want to ask for some of this content. You want to ask for reviews. And the reason I say don't just go online and read reviews because it is possible to pad reviews. And I've seen vendors, unfortunately, pad their reviews and ask people that did not have a wedding to leave reviews. And not saying everybody does that, but it does happen. So what you do is you ask them for some referrals. Say, do you have anyone that I could call, text, or email to ask about your past services? This is something I do with all of my vendors, and I just like to know, and it makes me more comfortable in hiring you. If they have any issue with that, there's red flag number one. And then if you do, and then talk to people and they say, don't hire them, then there's a big red flag. You know not to hire them. Now I want to talk about some major red flags, some red flags that you should say, no, whoa, I'm not going any further. And you should immediately halt your relationship with the people. Number one, they don't communicate well, or their communication is extremely slow, or in the worst case, there's no communication. If you send in a request to get a quote or to ask about their services and you don't hear back from them within, I would say, 48 hours, there should be a major red flag. There's slow communication initially when you're asking about their job, which will result in them getting money and they don't respond within 48 hours or after that longer. Major red flag. Do not do business with that vendor. Remember, if vendors aren't great communicators before you sign the contract, after you sign it, it's going to be even worse. Now, number two is pretty obvious, but I'm going to state it anyway. You can't find them online. You can't find any more information about them or their business. Or, worst case, all you see is bad or negative reviews. In that case, do not do not have any further relationship with that vendor because things could get mucky down the road. I've seen it time and time again where somebody, they have a little bit of a doubt, but they're going to give them a try. They sign a contract and then things go downhill and the result is just disastrous. So if you can't find any information online, if you find a little bit of information and it's unclear whether people like them or not, or if they're bad reviews, do not go with that wedding vendor. Number three, and this is a biggie, if their prices seem too good to be true, do not go with that wedding vendor. I am a coach to officiants, which are wedding vendors, and I teach that your prices should be mid to high level. And these are professional people. These are people that are building businesses, legitimate businesses, doing things right, and making sure that their customers are satisfied. If you are below 50% of the market and you're seeing people with low end prices, that's a huge red flag. The results, I mean, if you get lucky, you might get lucky. But if you hire them, there's a huge chance that you're going to be disappointed. Do not hire that wedding vendor. Number four, they can't seem to answer questions about the industry. If you're a wedding professional, now I understand there are some professionals that are just getting started. However, if you're getting started and you're a wedding vendor and you have a business and you're taking that business seriously, you're going to get educated before you start taking on customers. Otherwise, you have no business to take on customers. So if you get in your initial interview, if you want to call it, or your initial consultation with your wedding vendor, and you're asking them questions and they say, w- uh, well, and they stumble around it, or they say, I need to get back to you on that. And they're simple questions, huge red flag. Do not do business with that wedding vendor. You're not only saving yourself, you're saving them from embarrassment because they need to go get more educated before they start doing weddings. Number five, this is huge, and this goes towards this not only the success of your wedding, but your liability in case something happened. If a wedding vendor cannot provide the required documents, so if you say, "Hey, you're ordained. I just want to make sure you're certified ordained." They should mail you a copy of a certificate. Now, don't go in and try to dig and say, this is a legitimate church. If they show you a certificate and they've put that much effort into it, they have something ready to show you, then they're ordained. If a caterer, if you're like, hey, I know to legally serve liquor, you have to have a liquor license or something like that. And they'll say, yes. Can you provide me proof of that? Sure. Boom. And they'll provide proof. If they can't provide any documents, and even if they don't get right back to you, if they say, hey, yeah, I've got the document, I've got to go back to my office and find it, but I'll mail you a copy, that's perfectly fine. But if they say, I don't have that, or no, I never had that, or they just have no clue, they don't even know what legalities there are in their own industry, then stay away from that wedding vendor. Now, this is kind of a gray area with some vendors. Photographers are not going to have paperwork that says I'm a certified photographer, videographers, DJs, but what they are going to have is reviews of satisfied customers, or if their business is young and they don't have a 100 satisfied customers, maybe they've only got 2 or 3 and they don't have those reviews. They should be able to give you their phone numbers or emails, or at the least, they'll be able to offer you a sound bite or a video or something so you can see their work and you can understand that, yes, they're new, but they're trustworthy as to their word, whether or not they're a good vendor. Number 6, if the vendor does not listen to you. I teach all of my officiant students that the number one person that this revolves around is the couple. They are the ones that make the decisions. When I'm at the wedding rehearsal, I know the wedding planner is in charge, but if the bride or the groom says, "Hey, can you do this? I'd like this done a little different." You are the ones that we are supposed to listen to. If they don't listen to you, do not take that past the first red flag. So if they don't listen to you once, say, "Listen, I'm in charge." And then if they get an attitude, that's it. They're done. They're not the vendor for you. It is your day. It's your decision. It's your money. We should listen to you as a wedding vendor. Number 7, and I've experienced this personally. I've been at a wedding and I've been an officiant at a wedding, and someone come up to me and say, "Hey, that guy over there, stay away from him. That DJ, don't ever suggest him. Don't ever refer him." And I've referred people like that. I've referred bakers before, and somebody's like, "Do not go to that bakery." And I learned the hard way not to refer them. So listen to uh, not only the vendor you're working with, but listen to other vendors that you call and ask for suggestions. If you hear somebody say, "Stay away from that vendor," or if you look on Facebook in a Facebook group and it says, "Stay away from these vendors," you'll see a trend. There are vendors that you should stay away from. So if you're approaching a vendor and you hear someone say, "Stay away from them," and you hear somebody else say, "Stay away from them," please stay away from that vendor. I know it's common sense, but I had to put it in here. If they only accept cash. Yes, I'll probably get some kickback for this, but if you're running a legitimate business, I know people who are running businesses that only accept cash. But in this business, you should allow the person to use a credit card, a debit card, some form of payment that they have some protection on. And you, as the couple, need that protection, especially if you're paying thousands of dollars for a service. You need to be able to use a credit card that will allow you to say, "Hey, I dispute that. That is not what I said." Or, "Hey, they haven't delivered their service. They never showed up." And you can dispute that. If you give somebody cash, there is no way to dispute it other than spending thousands of more dollars, taking them to court. Don't use cash. Don't go with wedding vendors that only accept cash. And hey, on the flip side, if you're a vendor, if you're an officiant, if you're a photographer, a videographer, and you only accept cash, stop it. Start accepting but payment through credit cards, debit cards. There's thousands of things online. There's thousands of ways to do it. Even PayPal. Just change your way. I believe number 9 we're on. And number 9 is very simple. If their contract is hard to understand, hard to read, you are looking through it and you have to hire a lawyer, or you think you have to hire a lawyer, don't go with them. A contract should be simple enough for a layperson, someone who's not educated in law, to read, understand, and complete without hiring a lawyer. So if their contract that they hand you is insane and it makes you have an icky feeling, do not hire that wedding vendor. They are not for you. I have a very simple contract. It's a page and a half, 2 pages um, if you get a combination package or a package deal that there's more than one offering. It's not just officiating, it's video and all that sort of stuff. It's only a page and a half. It's very easy to understand, and it should be. So if you get I'm not saying if you get a contract more than a page and a half, don't go with it. I'm saying if you get a contract and it is hard for you to understand, you don't understand it, don't hire a lawyer, just find a different vendor. Finally, if you do a face to face, and you should always, always, always just do a face to face. You don't have to meet in person. You don't have to. We have Zoom. We're in the modern age. When you get on a Zoom call and you meet the person and you don't get a good feeling, something just says no, listen to your gut. Start asking questions, start thinking through it, and start overthinking your decision, because that could be a big red flag. So, what should you do? What should you do to proactively protect yourself from a bad wedding vendor? Benjamin Franklin said, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." And he's absolutely right. That's why I'm so focused on you understanding that you need to prevent, in the first place, dealing with a bad wedding vendor to have a great experience and have a great wedding. So I'm going to tell you exactly what you should do right now. All right. I've written down some of my top four answers for this. The top four things that you should proactively do. Number one, I'm going to read it. Ask to see a contract or to see the contract policies at the same time you ask for a quote. And at the same time, you're comparing other vendors of the same type. Kill two birds with one stone. When you call a vendor or you go on their website and ask for a quote, make sure you ask if they can send you a sample contract so that you can read through the things before you make a decision. And that way you won't have to say, "Ooh, I like them." And then they send you a contract and you're like, "Ooh, I don't like this." Make sure you get that done in the same time, and then you'll have it out of the way. Number two, email. Always email. I know it's easy to pick up the phone and you'll want to pick up the phone, you'll want to do a Zoom call, but when you are communicating important communication about your wedding, about the event, about the time, about the deposit or the retainer, about transfer of money, about the balance, about all the important things, your pictures, your video, make sure you email, and then you'll have a paper trail. You will not have to worry about disputing a phone call and having hearsay. "Well, I know they said that." "No, they said that." There's no record. You'll want to keep a record. And if you are a vendor and you're only using phone call, that is a very bad decision. Email, email, email. Keep that chain of communication and keep something that is visual and that you can have for a record. Number three, kindly ask for referrals. I say kindly because I've had wedding couples before say, "Hey, I really need to have some referrals before I can even consider you." And they just weren't super nice about it. Be nice, be kind to people. I know the day is stressful, but you as the couple set the tone for not only your entire wedding day, for the wedding party, for the wedding vendors, all of it. And I know you're going to be stressed out, but if you hire good vendors and if you listen to my advice, then you will have an amazing wedding day and your vendors will help you so much. You will not have to worry about anything but being there, being present, looking pretty, and going through with your wedding. So kindly ask people for referrals and just say, "Hey, this is something we're doing with all of our vendors. We're having a beautiful wedding. We want it to be perfect. So would you mind giving me a few referrals that I could email, call, text, do a Zoom call with," something like that. I just want to talk to a few people you've done business with and then call those referrals. That will set your mind at ease with this vendor. I know you've already looked at them online, you've looked at their reviews, but talking to a past customer will set your mind at ease. Four, this is the last one. I've given you a lot of information, but the last one is I want you to remain in control. I don't mean bossy. Oh, excuse me, I hit the mic. I don't mean bossy. I mean, I want you to remain in control. I want you to have the wedding of your dreams. And if there's something along the way that you don't like, I want you to verbally communicate that and be open and honest with every wedding vendor. If you heed my advice in the first part of this video, your wedding vendors will all understand. They will not get upset. In fact, wedding vendors like to know, they like for you to communicate. And the worst thing that you can do is talk to a wedding vendor and really get them excited. And then when you decide not to go with them, never contact them again. Please be respectful. And if you choose not to go with a wedding vendor who you've talked to, I'm not saying that you just got a quote from, but even that is decent and it seems very polite. So vendors will appreciate if you're not going to go with them, at least shoot them an email, say, "We've decided to go with someone else. Thank you so much for your time." Send them a short message and you will be the amazing couple that all the amazing vendors want to work with. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this helped you. If you got some good information from this video, please subscribe to the channel, like, review, leave me a comment, and I can't wait to speak to you again real soon. Have a great day.